Yeah, I did. Yeah, which was fabulous. And it used to take me a few days to recover. Apparently now it takes me a week and a half. And it was, I always feel like I need to let their folks have a couple of days off. So they left town and I had the kids. And Joan was with me, Joan Irwin. So it was great, but it was also, apparently their parents wanted them to stay on their schedule of extracurricular activities, which meant every night we had to get ballet, we had taekwondo, we had swim, we had occupational therapy. We had to go. We stayed in my hotel room, but we had to go feed the hamsters. You know, it was like, and it was cold and wet, and even. You know, at one point we looked out and there was this white stuff coming down out of the sky, and I thought, oh my God, what is that?
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. I am Debbie Reinhardt, a member of the congregation. It's a lovely morning, and I am glad to share today's wonderful Earth Day service with all of you. With me in today's service are our music director, Aubrey Candelario, the Chalice Choir, Dan Humblet, Mary DeVoy, myself, and Charlotte Kendall as main speakers. We are joined by many other friends from Mystic Grove, Green Team, and the 1U Community Garden. As we celebrate Earth Day and listen to the different ways our speakers have found to engage with our seventh principle of caring for the independent web, let us reflect on how we might also join the effort and live our lives in ways to help care for planet Earth. We welcome all to join us as we explore our Unitarian Universalist faith, which draws us into a community of justice seekers with a commitment to lifelong spiritual growth and compassionate service to the community. Whoever you are, whoever you love, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, regardless of your color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical or mental abilities, economic status, or religious background. Families, we are so happy to have you here. When we sing This Little Light of Mine during the service, youth and children are welcome to meet our child care folks and youth advisors in the lobby. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we are a non-creedal community and do not subscribe to a specific set of beliefs. We live by a covenant that encourages ethical behavior, affirms democracy, celebrates the worth of each individual and unites us in a search for truth and meaning. We welcome you. For more information on our congregation, go to orlandouu.org or email welcometeam@orlandouu.org. We have two special announcements today. The generosity team thanks you for your generous contributions. If you haven't turned in your pledge card, please turn it into the front office soon. Please join us in celebrating Earth Day at the end of the parking lot near the 1U Community Garden after the service. We will have a mini electric car show and refreshments. All other announcements are on slides before and after the service. All have links in the weekly update or on our website. Thanks again for being here in person or online today. Let's worship together.
Thank you for having me. My name is Lisa Marie, and the title of my poem is A Place for You. Just as the sky makes room for the arc of the sun, and the mountains hold their breath until the final snowfall is done, there is a place for you. In grassy valleys trampled with sunshine and laughter, in her fields blooming with happily ever afters, in the shifting sands of the Sahara and the cleansing waves of her monsoons, along the curves of cedar smoky skylines, and in the depths of her ocean's royal radiant blues, there is a place for you. Because the winter winds want to waltz with your waving, just as her sighing stars yearn for the softness of your skin. Because the jasmine-scented moonlights long to know the lines of your lips, and her ocean shores reserved a setting for the warmth of your hips. For you, there is a place. From the dust we all come from, and the return to her warm embrace. Because you are of the earth, and the earth is made of you.
Good morning. We're going to do the chalice lighting. Please say the words with me as we light the chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, sustain, and to share. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, "Oh Mama," by guest musician Abigail Spinner McBride. The words will be projected on the screen. I invite you to sway, dance, or clap along.
Thank you for your patience as we sort out some technical difficulties.
Oh, mama, Now we'll do Time for All Ages. We're going to read a story called The Trouble with Dragons by Debbie Gloria. The trouble with dragons is dragons make dragons, and then they make more, till there's wall-to-wall dragons making dragons galore. Then dragons start spreading all over the place. Soon their houses and roads take up all of the space. Dragons eat all the food and drink all the drink and use everything up without stopping to think. They also throw parties and make lots of noise and leave a huge mess after playing with their toys. Dragons chop down the forests, which melts both the poles and punctures the atmosphere full of big holes. Dragons blow out hot air, which makes everything hotter and hotter and hotter until all the snow melts and the ice turns to water. Then the seas start to rise and the deserts expand until everything's covered in water or sand. Say goodbye to the world into which you were born, for the dragons have made it all tattered and torn. Poor dragons, imagine a world with no birds and no bees, just dragons as far as a dragon can see. Don't go, wailed the dragons. Don't leave us alone. A world without wildlife is no kind of home. If you stay, we all promise to do what it takes to look after the planet for all of our sakes. As the waters rose higher right over their knees, a voice said, "Okay, start by not chopping down trees." Then all of the animals chimed in with advice, from the greatest of elephants to the smallest of mice. Eat food that is grown much closer to home, and leave the wild places and ice caps alone. Turn down your heaters and get some fresh air. There's enough to go round if we all share. Respect all Earth's creatures and cherish the land. Recycle, reuse, and reduce your demands. So, if you know a dragon, and most of us do, ask if it thinks that this story is true. For if we can't see that our stories are linked, then sadly, we could be extinct. The end. Please join me in singing our children and youth to their activities. Number 118, This Little Light of Mine.
If you want to contribute to our sharing of joys and concerns for the week, you can send an email to joysandconcerns@orlandouu.org during the week so that it might be shared on Sunday. Additionally, if you are attending the service in person, You can also fill out a card at the registration table and hand it to an usher before the start of the service. We have several shares today. Carla Cazort reports she is recovering slowly but steadily from successful eye surgery. She appreciates all positive energies you can send her. It was fun. Oh, Joan Irwin says it was fun to host the church's booth at the Earth Day Festival yesterday. Several families stopped by looking for a church. Melissa Baker has published her first book, Persephone's Passage, Walking My Father Through the Veil. Longtime 1U Charles Davis has announced that he will be moving to be nearer family in the Atlanta area at the end of this month. He has many friends in the Orlando area, and I am among them, through his involvement in League of Women Voters and First Unitarian Church, who will be missed and will miss Charles too. As Charles said, my family needs me to be closer so they can put their arms around me. Finally, longtime 1U Barbara Elrod passed this week. We send our condolences to her family. The seasons turn, following each upon the other, as life circles round, bringing joys and sorrows, comings and goings, challenges and successes. Hold these friends and the loved ones in your life as we take a minute to focus our energies on them. For those attending online, I invite you to write the name of a person that you hold in your heart today in the chat box. These names have been heard and honored together in this community. Alongside these, we know are certain joys and sorrows that remain private and unspoken. Those too have a rightful place here. May fellow feeling encourage each of us toward ever more compassionate living. This kindled chalice reminds us that we are kindred souls. We are never alone in the human condition. There is a love that cares for all. May it be so.
We invite you into the practice of generosity. Your financial support allows the many ministries of First Unitarian Church of Orlando to grow and thrive. You can make an offering to support the many ministries of this congregation in several ways. Go to orlandouu.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner. Send a text or mail a check. You may support this month's Share the Plate partner, the Adult Literacy League, by finding a link to their organization in our weekly newsletter. Please let us know you donated by dropping a line to Gabby, our program assistant. I invite you to sing along to our offertory song, Garbage Blues, by Dennis Westfall and performed by Allison.
Taking out the garbage can be such a drag. There's some crusty old bristle hanging off a dish rag. Sitting right on top of some moldy old beans, there's a long green goober that smells mighty mean. Aluminum cans full of yellowish goo, oozing over plastic caked with mildew. Last night's snooze mixed with gravy glue, pasted to a melon and some froggy dew. Aluminum foil lying in a big blob, something green and fuzzy, I started to sob. If I hadn't mixed it all into one bag, taking out the garbage wouldn't be such a drag. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle. I'm needing a solution to this throwaway pollution. What can I do? I got the garbage blues, There's an old brown bottle I couldn't see in, sitting right on top of a rancid soup tin. When I looked inside, something dribbled in my eye. It was brown and lumpy, I started to cry. Taking out the garbage is a terrible task. There's got to be something we can do with this trash. Well, I held my nose and I dumped out the bag, separated what I could from the dish rag, took the long green goobers to the compost heap. I was thrashing in the trash, I was in knee deep. All the paper and cans, every bit of that glass, got recycled right out of that trash. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle. I found me a solution to this throwaway pollution. We know what to do. No more garbage blues. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle, it's a better way. Recycle. We found us a solution to the throwaway pollution. We know what to do. No more garbage blues. Oh yeah.
We invite you into the practice of generosity.
That's a hard act to follow. Good morning, I'm Dan Homlet. I was asked to speak this morning as a member of the 1U Community Garden. As many of you know, my background is in the natural sciences, modified a bit by working with engineers for 25 years, so no offense to that career. Today I want to talk to you about two important elements that many don't think about when it comes to our garden, or yours for that matter, soil and seeds. Most of us think about the plants in the garden, for they provide us with sustenance and beauty. And while those are important and bring us joy, soil is often just considered dirt and dirty, and seeds just a means to an end. So, soil. There are many definitions, but let's go with the basics. Made up of minerals and organic matter, including living organisms, taking many forms from pure beach sand to organic muck in the swamps to slick clays. It forms the foundation for our buildings and the framework in which plants take root. Here on our campus, the soil we experience through most of the site is closer to beach sand than the richer soils that are found throughout much of Central Florida. When our foremothers and forefathers made the decision to buy this property in the early 1900s, this site was an orange grove on the edge of town. Even well into the mid-1980s, we had upwards of 80 citrus trees still on the campus. They were not well cared for and were damaged by major freezes, requiring Saturday work parties to cut down the trees and make way for open spaces of grass. Virtually every step of the way, as the campus landscape was developed, the sandy soils have had to be supplemented with organic matter, so think cow manure or compost. If we don't supplement the soils, there's very little chance that plants and trees will survive, and many haven't over the years. So how does this relate to the garden? The site that was chosen on the west side of the campus was the contractor's laydown area during the first remodeling. So imagine our meager sandy soils made worse by gravel piles, concrete, demolition debris, and compaction from heavy equipment. Envisioning a garden in this space took a lot of imagination on behalf of the original group that wanted to move the old community garden beds to a new spot and make something more permanent. We hired a professional who taught us how to restore the soil and create a soil substrate where plants could flourish. It was and is almost a spiritual practice to be part of this restorative process. It took hard work and patience. Layers of organic material were brought in, we're talking truckloads, covered with cardboard and allowed to rest. Wait, rest? What about a rototiller? Let's move this along, said many of us. We want to plant stuff now. No, said the professional, give it time. Let the sand and organic material mingle, age, let the microbes, the worms, and the bugs do their work. We waited and waited. A spiritual practice takes time, right? With time, we had soil that could support the bounty you will see when you visit the garden today. Now, seeds. Several times over the past few weeks, others have mentioned seeds of one form or another in their different presentations. Last week, Linnea read a story by Carol Madignacco entitled The Everything Seed, a wonderful story dealing with awakening. I only want to paraphrase several lines from the very beginning. It's about watching a seed grow and how it begins so small, still and quiet, and slowly it seems to wake up and unfold and grows into something larger. Several weeks back, Greg Buckingham shared a quote from Henry David Thoreau in reference to faith. Though I do not believe that a plant will spring up where no seed has been, I have great faith in a seed. Convince me that you have a seed there, and I am prepared to expect wonders. As most of you know, Thoreau spent 40 years in the vicinity of Concord and Walden Pond, and he was a keen observer of natural things. Recordings, thousands of pages in journals, and documenting wildlife and plants as they evolved in space over time. He was a contemporary of Darwin and applied many of his ideas from the origin of species to what was happening in this neighborhood, including debunking many scientists of the day who still believed that many plant species occurred through spontaneous generation. Thoreau's faith in seeds is shared in the book of the same name, and while a bit nerdy, I strongly recommend it, and I will loan it to any of you. Seeds, those little bundles of all that is needed to create a lush amaryllis, a giant oak, that delicious green bean or carrot, or a bundle of bananas. They take on all shapes, sizes, and colors, but each one has an amazing potential if it finds on its way into or onto soil. Next time you're about to plant a garden, take a moment to ponder these seeds that will be buried in the soil, wish them well, and have faith that they'll be given some water and some love and embracement of the natural rich soil around them. They'll become the glorious coreopsis, the bountiful mulberry, or tasty tomato. And I think due to brevity, I will leave one final quote off, but I will try to include it in the e-blast. It's a very wonderful one from Michelle Norris of the Race Card Project, but talking about gardens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Today I'm going to be talking about my observations of working in the public space to do the work of protecting the planet. The public space is beyond our private space of home and family, and even this congregation. And as the story unfolds, the public space I'm talking about is the Commission meeting room at Orlando's City Hall. In August 2017, which is over 5 years ago, or almost 5 years ago, the City of Orlando's City Commission adopted a resolution to achieve 100% renewable energy citywide by 2050. However, not every commissioner was eager to vote for the resolution that day. Yet, as representatives of many environmental and community groups came to the podium before the vote and made their case on why renewable energy was extremely important to our community and its future, In the end, the mayor and commissioners all voted in favor of the resolution. And as I looked around the commission room that day, I was glad to see several members of our church in their Side with Yellow t-shirts. Always a good sight. Several of them had spoken that day at the podium, but I wondered, where were the voices of other faith groups? I know you were not alone in caring about the environment. We know that's true. But I wondered, could people of faith be brought together to share and to learn and to advocate together to protect the environment of Central Florida? And I knew such groups existed in other parts of the state. And here in Florida, and here in Orlando, we have an example of interfaith collaboration that's gone on many decades in the Central Florida Interfaith Council, which our 1U minister, Reverend John Fuller, helped to launch in the 1950s. So, could we bring together people of diverse faiths to work on the environment right here? It seemed worth a try. But I was going to need some collaborators. You always do. I found my very first collaborator right here at 1U, Michael Cohen, longtime member of 1U, and co-founder with me of Solar Advocates of Central Florida, that evolved into Solar United Neighbors of Florida. So Michael was on board. Now it was time to reach out to the executive director of Central Florida Interfaith Council, Reverend Jim Coffin, who has spoken in our pulpit many times. He helped us to make connections with people of diverse faith organizations who were members of the council. Today we have a planning team, and we have found ourselves a name. We are calling ourselves the Interfaith Environmental Alliance of Central Florida. Our planning team consists of 7 Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, Catholic representatives, plus a non-denominational minister, plus Michael and I. My wish for this new organization will be that some of its members will feel empowered to come back to the commission meeting space and advocate for what needs to be focused on at that point. But some are going to be inspired to do other things. Their preferred activities may be working with hand-on projects, or working with youth in particular, or supporting people, aligning and working with people who live and work in low-resource neighborhoods in our community on environmental issues that they have focused on, such as air quality. In any event, coming together with people of different faith traditions to collaborate on environmental opportunities and challenges will be a journey of discovery for all of us who join in. So we're ready now to give it a try in Central Florida. Please join us if that is something you'd like to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Again, my name is Debbie Reinhardt, and I'm a member of 1U and a longtime environmental engineering consultant and professor. So as many of you know, the UN has established 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These goals are the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenges we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. This morning, I want to discuss 3 of them that deal with food, water, and energy. Goal 2 is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improved nutrition, and to promote sustainable agriculture. After decades of steady decline, the number of people who suffer from hunger began to slowly increase again in 2015. Current estimates show that nearly 690 million people are hungry. The majority are still found in Asia. 1/3 of global food production is lost or wasted, which results in the waste of land, energy, fertilizer, and water. Half of all vegetables grown are lost or wasted before reaching the consumer. Food waste consumes around 25% of all water used by agriculture each year and 23% of all croplands. Goal 6 is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. 1 in 4 healthcare facilities lacks basic water services. 3 in 10 people lack access to safely managed drinking water services. 6 in 10 people lack access to safely managed sanitation facilities. And at least 892 million people continue to practice open defecation. Water scarcity affects more than 40% of the global population. Each day, nearly 1,000 children die due to preventable water and sanitation-related diarrheal diseases. Goal 7 is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. And we should be encouraged by the fact that energy is becoming more sustainable and widely available. Access to electricity in poorer countries has begun to accelerate, and energy efficiency continues to improve. And renewable energy is making impressive gains in the electricity sector. Nevertheless, 13% of the global population still lacks access to modern electricity. 3 billion people rely on wood, coal, charcoal, or animal waste for cooking and heating. Energy is the dominant contributor to climate change, accounting for around 60% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. And indoor air pollution from using combustible fuels for household energy caused 4.3 million deaths in 2012, with women and girls accounting for 6 out of every 10 of these. The water, energy, and food security nexus, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN, means that water security, energy security, and food security are very much linked to one another. Actions in one area have substantial impact on one or both of the others. And these connections are foundational to sustainable development. These 3 sectors are necessary for the benefit of human well-being, poverty reduction, and sustainable development. We expect 10 billion people by the end of the century. And because of this, society is increasingly forced to choose between using land and fertilizer for food production or for bio-based renewable energy production. We have to choose between using fresh water for energy production or for irrigating food crops. And we have to choose between using energy for water and waste management or for food processing and transportation. As an environmental engineering faculty member, I did a fair amount of research on the food, energy, water nexus, with specific emphasis on food waste in Florida. In our research, we quantified food waste management impacts on energy that are related to methane emissions from landfills, fuel consumption during food waste collection and treatment, as well as the quantity of water needed to assimilate contamination from food waste. We found that food waste management in Florida consumes about 1% of our annual freshwater withdrawal in Florida, and that energy consumption to manage food waste was substantial. So what can we do to ensure that water, energy, and food needs are met in our community as well as globally? Well, of course, we should practice water conservation and protection of watersheds. We should support foundations that work with lower income countries to ensure safe water, sanitation, and food and energy security. We should increase our focus on minimizing food waste. Expiration dates should be more uniform and informative, and we shouldn't look at them as a throwaway date. We should modify our individual behavior to reduce the amount of food that we waste by making responsible decisions when buying or ordering food. And we should support the Good Samaritan laws that allow leftover food to be distributed without fear of lawsuits. And finally, we need a new approach that integrates the circular economy principles within a sustainable supply chain to ensure that food waste management is cost-effective, creates wealth, and is environmentally friendly and protects public health.
A brief history of the Earth. 15 billion years ago, the universe became and expanded. 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth formed and was enriched by materials from comets and meteors. 3.5 billion years ago, life began in the oceans. 200 million years ago, mammals evolved. 55 million years ago, primates evolved. 6 million years ago, hominids evolved. 250,000 years ago, an eye blink in geological time, our species, Homo sapiens, evolved. 171,000 years ago, we learned to use fire, burning wood, the first carbon-releasing fuel. 11,000 years ago, agriculture and more deforestation began. 10,000 years ago, we domesticated cattle, of which there are now 1 billion, each emitting a significant amount of methane into the atmosphere, the most powerful of the CO2 gases. 200 years ago, the Industrial Revolution revved up, and fossil fuels became our chief source of energy. There were 1 billion humans on Earth. Today, there are 8 billion humans on Earth, and 80% of the energy they use is fossil fuels. The 7 warmest years in recorded history have been since 2015. The warmest were 2016, 2019, and the hottest, 2020. With the climate change that's already locked in, temperatures will continue to rise even if we stopped emitting greenhouse gases completely today. The Earth will survive this, but will humans and other animals? Earth Day has never been more important than it is today.
Morning. I'm Renee Stutzman with the garden team. Once upon a time, there was a balloon. It was deep rich, the color of the ocean, and there were gold and green parts, forests and mountains and desert. And that balloon floated one day, one Sunday, into a church. And a teenager near the back saw it and tapped it, and that sent it into an arc across the room, and it came down lower, lower, nearly on top of Nancy Kelman's head. And Nancy reached up and tapped it, and that sent it toward the patio to where Bob and Ann Patton were sitting. And Ann gave it a good thump, and that sent it the opposite direction. Well, now everybody in the congregation was having a fine time. "I love this game," said a child. "It's more than a game, it's a metaphor," said the old gardener, who appeared out of nowhere because, well, this story needs a protagonist, and she was retired and she didn't have a good reason to say no. A metaphor, well, all the English majors in the congregation, and there were many of them, sat up just a little straighter when they heard that because they loved a discussion that included literary devices. Said the old gardener, "It is a metaphor, that balloon, of where we find ourselves right now. The earth is fragile. It needs our help. We must keep it aloft. We cannot let it fall." "What can we do?" asked a newcomer. You could tell he was a newcomer because he was wearing a necktie. "First," said the old gardener, "see this? This is a pledge card. If you have not signed your pledge card for this year, do it. There are cards in the foyer. It's been 6 weeks, people." But back to the earth. The old gardener said, "What can we do for the earth? We can eat more vegetables and less meat. It takes 50 times the amount of cropland to produce 1 pound of meat compared to vegetables. That would be this many, 50 times. And it's so convenient for you, we have a garden that produces fruits and vegetables right here on this church campus, and it's over yonder to the west. If you haven't been, you should go. We're going to have coffee hour there today. If you go into Gore Hall, you will remain thirsty and unnourished. Coffee hour in the garden this morning. There is also, thanks to the green team, an electric car show. There are 4 models of all electric cars. Take a look. That's another thing you can do to help this planet and help keep it aloft. You can also pick mulberries and cherries and pull radishes and take them home. All the food we produce in the garden is free, and it's intended for you and for our neighbors and for the community at large. Well, by now, the children had stopped listening, and the adults were saying to themselves, "You know, I liked the once upon a time part, but this is sounding like a sales pitch." "Wait," said the old gardener, because she refused to sit down and shut up. "Also this morning, you can help us make a garland of flags celebrating the earth during coffee hour." Uh-oh. Here we go. We have swatches of fabric and markers. You can write down your dreams for the earth, for the future, what we can do to help the earth, and we'll string them together as a garland and weave them through the garden gate. It will be fun. Well, the children and 10% of the adults said to themselves, "That does sound like fun. But everyone else, their minds had drifted to other things, primarily lunch, and so it was. The end.
Please join me in the words of our chalice. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
church. I'll be home in about a half hour, 45 minutes, okay? Okay. I love you too. Bye.